Today is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. My name is Sheridan Schwartz, and I'm interviewing June Singletary McCoy for the UT Austin Campus Commemoration and Contextualization Initiative. We're here at the University of Texas at Austin, and thank you, Mrs. McCoy, for agreeing to this interview.
You're welcome.
This interview is being recorded, and the unedited copy will be housed here at the archives at the University of Texas. Please know that if there's anything that you don't want to discuss, I will honor your wishes. If there are topics you wish to discuss and I haven't asked about them, bring it up. And at any point, if we need to take a break or if you want to get a drink of water or any reason, just let us know. So I'm going to start out with your years growing up. So you grew up in Palestine, Texas. Can you tell me a little bit about your childhood and your family?
Well, I was the oldest of my parents' 3 children. My parents were W.L. Singletary and Laurelia Holden Singletary.
And they were from Palestine as well?
No, she was from Trinity, Texas, and he was from Seguin, Texas. They met at Prairie View as students there and graduated from there and went to work in Palestine as a homemaking teacher and vocational agriculture teachers.
Wow. So it sounds like them having education and being involved with that. Education's kind of a theme, or it seems like it was important about in your household, perhaps.
That's true.
Can you tell me some stories about school and what the importance was of school? Did they stress that you had to stay in school, keep good grades, or what was the family attitude toward school?
Well, the school I attended was a small school, grades 1 through 12. Maybe there were 100 students, and my parents both taught there. And I was in my mother's homemaking class, or home economics class. And the funny thing is, whenever I had a question, I didn't want to say, Mama, and I didn't want to say, Mrs. Singletary, so I just didn't ask. I waited until I got home.
That is the plight of the teacher's child.
That's true.
That is.
But it was a small school, and it was a school that was devoted to basics, the basics. We didn't have science at our school, but they taught us the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic, so that we were able to function when we all went to college or into the military or into the world of work.
So you were in the same school for 12 years,
right.
Basically, and basically with pretty much the same students the whole time?
Right. There were just 12 people in my class, and at that time, that was considered a fairly large class.
Wow. Now, at the time, do you remember having teachers other than your parents
Yes.
that made an impact on you? Or at that point, were you formulating ideas about what you thought about school and education?
Yes. As I said, all of our teachers were devoted to the basic fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
Our English teacher, she taught the grades, 8 through 12. And she even introduced American literature, which was not on the curriculum, but she introduced that. And for math, we didn't have much. We didn't even go up to algebra, but we would the basics of arithmetic were stressed, so that we were able to go ahead and move into other classes. Those of us who went away to college.
Now, when you were in high school in Palestine, do you remember a lot of talk about college and taking the next step? Were the students there encouraged, or was it assumed that some may go, some may not? What was that like?
Students were encouraged to consider college. We went to Prairie View, A&M University, to participate in interscholastic league activities, spelling, art memory, essay writing, piano solo.
So you made school trips to Prairie View.
We did.
So you guys already had an idea.
And our basketball team won the championship in 1955.
Wow.
And
Now,
we didn't even have a gymnasium
so I was going
on
to
our
say,
campus.
I was just about to ask about the facilities. When you say it was a basic school, I'm
Yes.
getting the impression there wasn't a science lab, there wasn't a lot of um, recreational or gymnasium.
All of the activities for the students were provided through the uh, vocational agriculture and the home economics activities.
And tell us about your town. Was your town segregated? Do you feel like you grew up in an area where where segregation was the rule of the day, or certain places that you knew not to go or that weren't welcoming spaces? Can you talk about that?
Well, yes, I'll talk about the movie theater.
Absolutely.
We all went upstairs, a steep stairway to the movie, and the white participants sat on the first level. And of course, the schools were segregated. And what else?
Do you remember, separate white and Negro water fountains?
Oh, yes, white only.
Were
I don't think the
there
term black was used at that time.
probably
It would just say white only.
just white only?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and do you remember even a sense of certain types of segregation in going to restaurants? Were there places where you couldn't go, or stores or department stores? Or did you feel at that time were you aware of these stark differences?
Yes, we were aware. As I said, the water fountain, say in the dime store,
Hmm.
uh, restrooms. We'd have to walk over to the train station. We had a large train station in Palestine where a lot of the trains coming from other areas going to Chicago, for example.
Right, Palestine was a
Right.
was a
It was
hub
a
at that
railroad.
time. Yes.
Correct. It was. So we couldn't drink from the water fountain. We couldn't use the restroom anywhere in town except over at the train station. You could use the restroom.
And
And the schools were segregated, of course.
and the schools were segregated. So
Uh-huh.
in grade school, you did not attend schools with any white children.
No.
You did not have fellow white students.
That was in much later years, maybe in the 80s, I think, when the schools were integrated.
Now, growing up there, you were just probably the Heman Sweat in his case. Uh, Sweat versus Painter was just happening. It started in the late 40s and was finally settled in 1950. Did you remember hearing anything about it?
I did not until my freshman year in college.
And boy, I bet you heard quite a bit about it.
I did and read a lot about him.
Do you remember hearing about civil rights in the news? Do you remember organizations or your parents being involved in groups or churches or things where they talked about what rights and opportunities there were?
They discussed things at home among
Yes.
family members, and we didn't read a lot about it. We had a local newspaper, and of course, there was not much written in that. In fact, in that newspaper, I remember cutting out this article about my attending a national New Homemakers of America meeting up in Maryland, and the word Negro was written with a small N
Really?
in the newspaper.
About what year would that have been?
Oh,
Mrs.
about
McCoy?
19, let's see, I finished high school in 55. So it's about during that time.
Wow. That Negro with the small N.
Small N.
That says a lot. Were your family active in the community? What was the community life in Palestine like?
Yes. It was a small community. My father worked with the men in the community, being the agriculture teacher. He worked with them in building barns, in farming, kind of like George Washington Carver. How to provide
And do things better.
things that you needed in a better way, in a more economical way, a more productive way. And
yielding more crops
Right,
and having the
right.
tools to be
Yes.
successful
And my
farmers.
mother helped teach women how to preserve those crops.
Oh, like
By
canning and preserving?
Yes,
Okay.
canning. Not much freezing going on, but canning and decorating the home, protecting the walls. She taught them how to take old newspaper and cover the walls and then go over with wallpaper. How to take wooden orange crate boxes and apple crate boxes and put that together and make furniture out of that. How to refinish the furniture that they had, restaining and
So
varnishing.
really teaching life skills
Yes,
and
make,
household skills.
right, making garments for their children, using flour sacks and make garments and decorate them with embroidery and various stitches.
Now, did you guys always have a sewing machine? Did you have
Always.
at home?
The old treadle sewing machine.
That's right.
My sister and I made all of our clothes ourselves.
So you remember learning to sew very young?
We bought patterns and we made all of our clothes when we were about maybe 6th grade.
Wow. So as you graduated in 55. Can you tell us a little bit about that graduation and what was going to be your next step?
We all looked forward to wearing the cap and gown.
Yes.
We had the processional. Our music teacher would play Pomp and Circumstance on the piano, and we marched in on that. We had a speaker. One year it was the president of the college in Crockett, Mr. Batts. And he was the commencement. Oh, we had a baccalaureate service and a commencement service.
Oh, wow. Okay, great.
And we all wore the black robe and the cap. And that was a very dignified service.
Were you a good student? Do you remember graduating with high grades or honors? Or
I did. I was a good student. I was valedictorian of the class.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. So
really,
that answers that question.
Close competition with my next door neighbor who grew up next door to me. He was in the class also. So he was salutatorian.
Not. We don't hear about a lot of female valedictorians in these interviews these days.
So. In a small town, there was not a lot of things to do except study and apply yourself in your classwork.
Did you have a local library, and was it integrated or open to you?
No, that was a library. We grew up about 9 miles out of town. And so the library was in the city, and it was for whites only. And I didn't really learn how to use the library until my freshman year in college at Texas Southern.
That leads us to that. So when you graduated, you enrolled at Texas Southern.
Right.
Certainly Texas Southern, the historically black college and university there in Houston.
Right.
My alma mater. Go Tigers.
Yeah.
My late parents' alma mater as well, 3 generations of my family there. That was considered quite a destination.
Yes, it was.
Can you tell us what it was like getting ready to leave Palestine and go to Houston and packing, getting your things ready to live in the dorm? Or tell me about that.
I looked forward to it. I packed up my things. I had a trunk that my grandmother gave me. And my father visited my grandmother she lived in Seguin, which is near San Antonio.
San Antonio.
And he went shopping in San Antonio and bought me a few things for college. And of course, I sewed a lot of things and took them to school. And in the dormitory at Texas Southern, there were 4 girls in a room. There were 2 bunk beds. Yeah. So 4 girls in a room. And we had to learn how to share space in the closet and all.
That's right.
And how to protect your belongings.
Because you didn't have siblings right up under. No. You had a younger sister.
2 years later.
2 years later. And so how do you remember how you made the decision to go to Texas Southern? Because back then we heard about Wiley, Houston Tillotson, Texas Southern, and Prairie View, where your own parents graduated. So how did you decide on Texas Southern?
I knew I did not want to go to Prairie View. Yeah. Because
Indeed.
My parents went there.
Yes.
And a lot of their friends still live there and taught there. And I didn't want to be around them. So I chose Texas Southern, and my parents agreed.
Great. So what was that first year like? Did you get involved in the life with games or activities or clubs, or was it studying and books? And
Yes, I did.
And the college library, you mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
So this is your first big college library
Yes.
experience.
Well, living in a dormitory with 3 other people, that, was new and different.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to use the library. I learned to use the Dewey Decimal System in finding things that I needed to research or read, and just learning how to use the library.
And so were you a home economics, or now they
Major.
call it human ecology,
Yes.
but back then it was home
I
economics.
was home economics major. And let me tell you this. My freshman English teacher was, her name was Antoinette Morrison. Toni
Yes.
Morrison.
That
My
was
freshman English teacher.
that was my parents' English
I have a
literature
paper.
teacher.
Yeah, I have a paper I wrote, and she graded it. So I keep that as.
She was Tony Wofford, later
Wofford.
later Toni Morrison. Absolutely.
I saw her name. I was in a bookstore, and I would always go to the black section of the bookstore, and I saw Toni Wofford. Was it The Bluest Eye?
The Bluest Eye was her first book. So yes, she taught at Texas Southern between 1955 and 57.
Okay.
So you certainly had a robust experience there.
Yes.
Also, Barbara Jordan was there at that time as well.
During the debating with Dr. Freeman.
On the world famous, the legendary debate team.
Correct.
And Barbara Jordan already had a presence.
Yes, she did.
Had a presence there.
Yes, she did.
And I know that for my parents being there at that time, for a lot of students, that was their first full campus experience where being black meant you could still be involved in every club. There weren't things closed, although there was quite a bit of segregation in Houston at that time. Now, what did you find about the difference between coming from a smaller place like Palestine to Houston, which was not the big city that it is now, but certainly a larger place? And was there any adjustment there, or did you?
Let me think. Well, getting accustomed to living in a dormitory with 3 other people,
that was
sharing
huge.
closet space.
Mm-hmm.
I always took the top bunk.
Oh.
Nobody could sit on my bed.
That's smart. That's very crafty.
And I was blessed to have had good basic foundation of teaching from the teachers that I had in high school. They stressed basic fundamentals, reading and writing and comprehension in reading.
Right.
Penmanship. Those basics. That got me through a long way, even when I came to the University of Texas.
And so when you're at Texas Southern, did you consider your freshman year, along with the dorm adjustments of those things, would you say you considered it to be successful? Did you felt comfortable?
Yes, it was an introduction to college life, learning about sororities and pledging for a sorority and the fraternities, and watching the guys come around the girls' dorm and do their performances out there.
Serenading and doing all of those.
Going to football games and pep rallies.
Sure.
School dances, and just learning how to take notes in various professors' classes, and knowing how the professors were different.
Right.
Had different requirements.
And you had to meet their
standards.
Their level of standards, that's right. Now, did you feel that the professors there were encouraging or working on success, or had high hopes or high expectations for you and for the students?
They were successful. They had good training and background themselves from the various schools that they had attended, and they expected quality work from their students.
And you were there at a time,
no less, the best.
Where you had Dr. Samuel Nabrett, who's world
Dr.
famous
Bernadine Lewis in
Doc,
Hamakanopsis.
Dr. Lewis,
Yes.
Dr. Nabrit. You had
Yes,
you
yes.
had Toni Morrison.
Right.
You had Thomas Freeman. So there were
Yes.
some of these leaders
An
in
outstanding debate team.
the outstanding world famous debate team.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, you come home after that first year.
Mm-hmm.
And when did UT become mentioned or be sort of brought to
That was
you?
my first year. My mother came and said, black students can go to the University of Texas now in Austin. And I want you to, no, you're going. She didn't say, I want you to go.
It wasn't a discussion. There was no back and forth. It
right.
was
she felt like.
Sounds like an order almost.
She felt like there was so much available that I should take advantage of.
Sure. And this would have been the very first year.
Mm-hmm.
So fall of 1956 was the very first inaugural class, a cohort
right.
of black students, of undergraduates to attend at UT.
True.
So all of a sudden, now you're making a significant shift. And what had you heard about UT, be it at Texas Southern, or once you realized you were destined to go there, whether you wanted to or not? What kind of things did you hear, or what kind of ideas did you formulate about it?
I really hadn't heard anything except one of the men on the board of regents for UT was I think it was an Anderson County person or East Texas person, and he was connected with a motel that we had there. What was his name? Sanders? I can't think of it.
So he had business back home.
Yes.
But,
and I think he was not in favor of integrating.
Oh, yes. We're not surprised to hear that.
Right.
Integration was, as we know, it was not a strictly linear process here.
My mother felt like I could get a good education at University of Texas.
So she knew of the academic reputation and the resources that were available on the campus, but you didn't know very much about the day-to-day life because you were going to be in the first very group.
I did not. And we didn't live on campus.
Oh, of course.
Remember the first year or two? We lived in an old Houston-Tillotson dormitory over on the other side of town.
So the very first cohorts to attend here in the mid to late 50s, almost all of certainly of the interviewees that we've spoken to lived or were connected to or somehow housed near Houston-Tillotson or Houston College.
One of their old dorms. And there was no transportation. We walked to the campus. Now, I-35 was not here at that time.
No.
So there was a long walk, and Austin is a hilly place.
Yes, it is.
We were young and energetic. We could do it.
From East Austin to here. Oh, my goodness.
Walk to and from school. Now, the lady over the building was a teacher at Houston-Tillotson, a white lady, Mrs. What was her name? She taught at Houston-Tillotson. She had a station wagon, and she had early morning classes. Now, if you had an early class at UT, she would bring you over to the campus.
Wow.
But I didn't, so I just waited, and I walked over.
Wow.
And walked back.
And I'm assuming that you also took your meals, so you were aware that even though you started that first year, that inaugural pioneering class, bravely started, but you weren't going to be able to be housed or to eat your meals on campus. And did you go back for lunch?
No.
And dinner, or did you just...
At the end of the day or whenever my classes ended, or after library work or anything, then I walked back.
Then you walked back
and we had our meals there.
Back there. So there was no place to even sit down and have a lunch or have a meal break or a snack.
No. We'd meet in the, what was it called, the Student Union building? And there was a section where all the black kids met in one section. And compared notes and talked. And we weren't, you didn't ask this, we weren't welcomed.
Yes,
by the white students.
Please share.
It's as though we were invisible. No one spoke or anything.
Did And that certainly leads me into what did you think about Austin what were your impressions of Austin?
I thought it was a nice town. We knew my parents knew some people who lived here,
Oh,
and the graduate chapter, the graduate Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority from Houston Tillotson
yes.
organized a chapter, Delta Xi, for the black girls at UT.
And that's very similar to the parallel of how Alpha Phi Alpha was started on
Okay,
the campus.
all right.
And so very interesting about that
Mm-hmm.
because that was the very first Black Greek organization on the University of Texas
Is that
campus.
right? Okay.
The Delta Xi chapter was the first one organized.
Mm-hmm.
And then subsequently, again, the graduate chapter from Houston Tillotson of the Alphas organized a chapter here.
All right.
But was that so? Of course, there was an understanding that they had white clubs and
Mm-hmm.
organizations,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no thought that you or your members of your cohort
Whatever.
would ever be a
No.
member of or be a
No.
part of.
No.
Were you allowed to? Were there any places on campus where you felt like you couldn't go, or
Right.
that were, even though they maybe weren't expressly forbidden,
Right.
but it wasn't going to be again a welcoming place? Or
I'm remembering that the only place one Sunday I attended the First Baptist University First Baptist Church, and there on the drag, there was the restaurant, there was the theater, and I don't recall that we were able to go to those places. We'd go over
yes.
to the Harlem Theater
Right,
on the other side of town.
which was in East Austin.
Right, East
In
Austin.
East Austin,
Mhm.
I've heard
Us
about.
girls would call a taxi, and there'd be about 8 of us in that taxi. And the man would say, kneel down. And then when it was clear, okay, you may sit up now. That's what we do, put our pennies together.
And now, when did your parents feel strongly when you told them, for example, that you wanted to pledge and join Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, which is also the oldest women's sorority in the country? What was the response from your family or family and friends back home?
Oh, I didn't discuss it with my friends. Maybe some friends who were at Texas Southern, but the other girls in the community weren't familiar with fraternities and sororities. My parents, I think I took my school fees one month and just used that to pay the fees for the sorority. And my sister, a year or so later, was pledging Delta. She was at Dillard, so my
Right,
mother
Dillard.
she was aware of what we were doing.
The HBCU in New Orleans, famous, of course, for their science, for their
Right. She was a
pharmacy and their nursing.
nursing major there.
Absolutely, and is a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Okay, so the second major Black sorority in the country. So you have one of those classic AKA and Delta families, of which we have plenty of those in the community. So by joining this organization, you get a little bit of a more traditional part of the process. But what were some of your impressions of the campus? As you said, there weren't a lot of interaction with your students, so you were never invited by
UT
white
campus.
students to study or to join a study group or.
No. One time, a white student asked me if she could come to the co-op where we lived on campus and copy my notes. I guess she thought she saw me feverishly making notes. And she came to copy the notes. She sat on my bed and copied the notes. And the next day, I saw her as we passed each other going down the sidewalk. And she looked away. She didn't even speak or smile. And I thought, well, that's the last time I'll do that.
Wow. Wow.
And of course, the boys couldn't even consider participating in athletics
Oh,
or
right. And
anything.
so the gym, I'm sorry,
That
the
was
stadium was not open to you
no,
as students
no.
at that time.
And we had one girl from Houston who was majoring in drama,
Hmm.
and she was never considered to be in a play or anything. We saw her leaving at night with a flashlight. All she was doing was backstage directing people and providing light for wherever they needed to go. She did not stay. She eventually left so that she could get what she wanted to have
To be
in
an
Houston.
active participant and be
Yes.
cast and be
Mm-hmm.
and get that performing experience
But
as
many of
well.
us stayed. We withstood, and we were just determined. We were not going to be defeated. And so we stayed, and a good friend of mine, I think you've talked to her, this good friend of mine, we both graduated in 1960, I believe. I've graduated in 1960. I think she did too. But
Which friend was that?
Mamie Ewing.
Oh, yes, okay. So when you contrast it with your experience at Texas Southern, how would you say your interactions with your professors were? Did they seem to regard you guys as being an involved part of the campus, an annoyance? Did you feel as if they were as interacting with you and having the same expectations of you than other students? Or what were your thoughts or feelings about that?
I must say that I can be very complimentary of all of the professors I had in the home economics department.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Rathbone, and I can't think of the others' names. But they were so welcoming, so encouraging. They were complimentary of the work that I did because I had a good background from high school with
Sure.
my mother as my home economics teacher. And in fact, when I marched across the stage, Dr. Rathbone said, "We're proud of you, June." So I knew then that she had been observing me.
Wow.
She knew what I and the other girls were going through on campus. But everybody didn't stay. Some of the girls came from Houston with $10,000 Jesse Jones scholarships. And
The Jones
so
Foundation.
they did not, a lot of them did not stay. They did not want to risk losing their scholarships by not passing all their courses.
Where we've heard stories from other interviewees, excuse me, about professors that no matter what said, you're not going to, no Negro is going to get anything higher than a C in my class, or I won't be, no Negro coming from a Negro school has the background to do well in my class. Did you see that now?
I was never confronted with anything
With that.
like that.
Now-
We didn't talk. I went to a conference with an economics professor one time because he spent the whole class period talking to, there was one student, a male white student up on the front row, and he spent all his time talking to him about, I guess, experiences the student had. Perhaps his student's father was in insurance or investments or something, and they just talked about personal things, and he never taught anything. Then he gave a test, and it wasn't from the book, and it wasn't from the lecture. I failed that class because I didn't know what to study. But
you weren't given a foundation to succeed in that class,
and
were you?
I went for a conference with him to see what I could do to improve my grade. Great, and he just sat there grading papers and didn't even recognize my presence.
He did not acknowledge you or
No,
speak to
ma'am.
you as you stood in his faculty
sat
office.
there in front of his desk. So I said, "Well, I tried." But
Wow.
all of my teachers in the home economics department were super excellent. Super excellent.
And in another contrast, what were the difference in the facilities from coming from Texas Southern and small HBCU? Was there a difference in the in what the rooms were like in the home economics building, or what the equipment or the things, or did you feel like they were very much on par or pretty similar?
Texas Southern was pretty well equipped, and the instructors were super good.
Home
Good
economics was a
background.
strong program
Yes.
for them.
Dr. Bernadine Lewis, head of the department.
Yes.
So I think she had I don't remember where her doctorate may have been from a school in Kansas. Don't quote me, I'm not real sure.
Mm-hmm.
But she was a super excellent professor.
So you felt as particularly in your home economics
Mm-hmm.
classes,
Mm-hmm.
you felt prepared. You felt
I
like
did.
you were going to be able to succeed. You could sew. You could
plan meals,
plan
plan
meals,
menus,
and you were
do
able
home
to,
decorating, do child development. That was my favorite area.
and so you felt like you had a firm foundation
I
both
did.
from your home and your previous schooling
Right.
when you got there.
Yes.
Even that year may have made a difference, a year of
Yes.
college as
I
well.
think so.
So when you think back on your cohort, were most of them, was it first time college students? Were they some transfer students? Or was it a mix? Or what do you remember?
My freshman year?
When you were,
My
once you got to UT,
UT.
which was really your first
Oh.
year at UT, but your
All
second
right.
year of college.
All right. All right. So, of course, we lived in segregated housing.
Absolutely.
Off
Sure.
campus and then on campus. I didn't have much relationship with the students in the classes. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
paid attention.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had a letter from a student in recent years. She said, I saw you in one of my classes, and I wanted to speak to you, but I didn't know how you would react. And I wrote her back. I said, oh, what a wonderful opportunity to form a friendship, because I would have welcomed your friendship.
That was
so
an
we
important
stayed in
thing
touch.
to share.
Yeah,
And you, so now you've
we
been
stay
able
in
to.
touch. Yeah.
Did you did you find that finances? You mentioned some people with their scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
How was the difference financially? Did you feel like you had adequate funding and that your parents were able to help you where you were able to focus on your studies and not
Yes.
have to worry about
Yes.
About paying for tuition and books or materials?
I never had to worry about things like that.
You didn't have
They
to.
provided what I needed. I didn't ask for extra
Sure.
or anything extravagant. I'll go shopping.
And you were able to sew your own clothes.
Yes.
That's a plus.
The clothes I had made at home. And they provided well for both of me and my sister.
And do you remember with your other cohort, the blacks who came to your Precursor cohort, did were a lot of them first generation college students that you know of? Were there some who had experiences where their parents had attended some of the black colleges or universities?
As far as I can remember, most of them were the first time college students in their family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't say, and many of their parents had been college graduates.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, of course, and primarily probably black college graduates,
Right.
If they were
Yes.
from the South,
Oh, yes.
if they were, as we,
like
had made
Raleigh
those
or
strides.
Prairie View or Texas Southern.
Or Texas Southern, maybe perhaps Houston Tillotson as well.
True.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what your friends were like? I know you were able to later join a sorority, but did you find that you had friends who were from different parts of Texas, East Texas, or once you all got here, kind of being brothers in arms, like being in a foxhole together, because you guys were in a very different situation. Can you talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind?
The other girls that I was in first of all, the dormitory, the Houston Tillotson dorm, and then on the campus in the co-op on Whitus. We were all so focused on studying.
Yes, yes.
We didn't have the type of academic background that you really needed at UT.
So you had to fill that gap by working harder. Maybe.
We studied hard. We spent our time studying. And we all recognized that was what we were there for.
And certainly with your parents, it sounds like their expectations, you did not want to come home and say.
Well, yeah, and my mother said to me, I was, oh, Mama, this is so hard. There's this biology class, and I'm this white girl and I are partners, and we're having to dissect this cow's heart or whatever it was. What does dissect mean? I had no science in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mama said, you don't have to stay. You can come home. Well, no, that was not my style.
But you did not want to do that.
No, I wanted to overcome.
And do you remember that lab partner? Was she willing to work with you,
No,
or did you?
She didn't. I didn't exist as far as she was concerned.
Wow. So you're both standing there at this lab table.
Right.
Because it used to be two to a, maybe it's different now, but it used to be
There were
two
two
to a
of us.
lab
Right.
tray,
Right.
and whatever
And she
whatever
just
it
went
would
on.
be, a
If
pig's
I had
heart,
a question or if I was observing,
a
if I
frog.
need, because it was all new to me.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even have a science class in my high school, except just general science. But she knew what she was doing, but she was not one to share or talk about it.
So you guys did not interact or take notes or.
No.
Wow. So you were lab partners, but not real partners,
Not real partners, no.
in a sense.
So I learned to function on my own and do as best I could with other black girls that I lived with.
So you formed a group where you guys were like a support system for each other. Were there anyone on campus, be them staff members, custodial, or any blacks that you were able to talk to on the campus other than students? Were there any adult workers or staff workers or anyone that you remember?
The main two people were, of course, Mrs. Almitra Marsh Duran, who was over our first building.
Had a
then
large,
our
legendary career.
Yes, and I'm so glad to read about the honors that she has received.
And having a very appropriately a housing co-op named
Right,
after
and
her.
we came for the dedication of that dormitory.
And
That was named
that
for
was
her.
I believe 2010.
Yeah, co-ed dorm.
And
Who would have thought?
It is really amazing. She would have all sorts of thoughts about that.
Right. So
Miss Durham or Mama Durham, some people
Yes,
called her, had a
yes.
very large, looming presence on this campus.
She was the person that we needed between us and the rest of the school. The professors, the students, and all.
Like a buffer.
And because we didn't worry about the fact that we couldn't join various campus organizations, the boys in athletics, other organizations. What was it? I can't think of the name. I may say the Silver Spurs or...
Yes, they had that. They had Silver Spurs and Orange Jackets and all
Orange
kinds
Jackets,
of
yes.
things that were not
We
open
knew
at
that
those
we could not, so we decided we would just do our best in our classwork, do the best that we can, and make our parents proud, and learn all that we could to take with us.
to take back.
And when I graduated and started teaching in an integrated school, that background was helpful to me. And I formed a philosophy about teaching my students, always be fair. That's the first thing. And the classes were mixed, and that was no problem. I had no problem.
And you can imagine that was it was a significant cultural shift for those qualified teachers, but who'd only been exposed to segregated teaching.
And the students,
that was hard for them when classrooms did integrate.
Yes, the students didn't know what to expect from me.
Sure.
But they soon learned that I was going to be a qualified teacher, teach them the basic foundation, and be fair. Well, can't you just give me a half a point? No, I can't do that. That's not fair.
Now, so when you were in school, you knew your plan was to teach home economics, right? Did you always know that?
Not always. I didn't really want to because that's what my mother did. And she did so many things besides teach the classes, so many things that she worked so hard in the community.
Extra projects.
And I didn't want to do all that. But then I decided I'll go ahead and major in home economics with emphasis in clothing and textiles and home decorating and child development. Child development was one of my favorites. And so I decided I'll just do my own thing.
So So, in the times when you weren't studying, what were things that you guys did for entertainment? What were weekends like in Austin in the 50s in the segregated Austin of the 1950s?
We would put our money together to get a cab. There was a black cab driver we would call. He would
I
take us
didn't
over
think,
to.
of course, the cabs were segregated too.
He would take us because we could put 8 people in one cab.
Right.
You know? And we'd go over to the Harlem Theater, which is a black theater over on the other side of town. And the owner of the theater, his wife was my first grade teacher.
Really?
She came to Palestine on Sunday evenings on the bus. My daddy would pick her up at the bus stop.
Oh, wow.
And then Friday evenings, he'd stay with her until she caught the bus to Austin.
So you had someone that you knew, so
right.
your parents.
She named us. She named my sister and me.
Really?
And,
so really good family friend.
Really good. We called her Grandma Jones. And her husband was the manager of the Harlem Theater.
Wow.
Here in Austin.
So these places like the Harlem Theater and places in East Austin were the welcome spaces for you.
Ebenezer Baptist Church.
I was about to ask you about that. Did you find a worship home, or were there churches that you knew welcomed the students? I know some of the churches actually used to do meals on Sunday.
No, we didn't have that.
So that would have been
that would have been good. But
that
we
would have
had
been a
wonderful
good
meals,
enticement.
well balanced meals.
But Ebenezer, so basically, I'm assuming maybe
I'd walk over there.
churches, because they were churches in East Austin, near Houston Tillotson.
Right. And I once attended the University Baptist Church when we lived on campus. One Sunday I went over there.
And
huge church, you know.
And what did you think about that experience?
It was all right. It's just different.
Just different, okay. And so
the music, you know.
Music. So what are some of the spaces? I know that at that time the men lived in old barracks left over from wartime, the black men. So they were pretty far away, and a lot of them expressed what it was like to be on the far side of campus.
We rarely saw them. Sometimes they'd come over to our co-op and serenade us.
Right.
We'd hear them singing outside. Did they tell you that?
We've heard some serenade stories, especially about your brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha. They were known for serenading. So you got a sense that there were these safe spaces or welcoming spaces and then spaces that weren't, like the stadium.
Yes.
It's hard for a lot of people to imagine a stadium that black students weren't allowed to come and watch football games.
And you know, one other point, I think I may have read it in the book that I bought. When teams came from other places, like from California, there was a team that had a black player, and of course we were cheering him on.
Of course.
And there was no place on campus for that team to stay. They didn't know what to do with that black player. And one of the hotels said, you can stay here.
So there were some challenges that you had at attending at a time that maybe other, especially white students, didn't have.
Right.
So the challenge of being physically not located on campus for your housing, for your meals, and then not having the traditional opportunities for interacting with some of these professors. It sounds like you mentioned Ms. Mama Durham and some of those.
Mrs. McCracken was there preparing the meals.
Mrs. McCracken, that's right. So that was, a lot of people have said that sometimes that these were like surrogate
parents.
Parents for them.
Our parents didn't have to worry because they knew we were in good hands.
That you were in good hands.
Yes.
What was your graduation or your UT commencement like, if you can share those? And I do believe that you had something, you were a little bit different from a lot of your classmates at graduation, because you had done something different that spring. So
got married.
That's something different. That's something different. And your husband, who you're still with, so we know you have a stick-to-it spirit, because he's still here. 63 years. Now, did you meet him on campus, or how did you meet him?
We met in Palestine.
So you met back home?
Yes. On Sunday evening, my sister and I would go to the movie with my parents. And my parents would
And this
sit
was
here.
during summers?
That's whenever we went to the movie, mostly summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the movie theater, which was segregated. Blacks sat upstairs and the whites sat downstairs in the movie theater. What's the name of it? Texas Theater? All right. And I saw him and a couple of his friends sitting over across from me and my sister. And I think someone challenged him to come over and speak to me. So he came over and sat next to me, and we chatted a minute. And from then on, he would come down. He lived in town, and I lived out in 9 miles out. And he would come and visit me sometime because we didn't have a telephone, so he couldn't call.
So courting was really challenging.
Yes,
you
it
had
was.
to be, yeah, oh boy, and that's a long way to go to find out that you weren't home.
So when his daddy would let him have the car, he'd come pick me up and take me to the movie. But my mother said my sister had to go with us.
Oh, yes. Oh, I bet. And now, so your sister would come home from Dillard in New Orleans. Did she share stories about what things were like at Dillard? It sounds like when I hear stories about Dillard, then it seems to remind me a lot of what Texas Southern was like. Xavier, of course, the other HBCU there in New Orleans. And did you feel any twinge of that, or were you just focused on, I am here, I'm at UT, I'm going to finish this? Or tell me about that.
Well, I was determined to succeed
Yes.
at UT. And she was at Dillard, majoring in nursing. And after the Army paid for 2 years of her schooling in nursing. And so when she graduated, she put in 2 years.
Oh, right.
In the
So
Army. She served 2 years.
Right.
In Korea.
She had the obligation.
Yes.
Yes.
That was something that she found out about herself. When my parents knew it, she had done it.
Wow.
Signed up.
Wow. So that was like...
She became a major.
Like when people talk about MASH, when people say about MASH, that was a lot of things. I know my mother was in the Women's Army Corps during Korea.
Is that right?
That was pretty different.
That was yours.
That was very, very different. My parents had a military marriage, and I only mention that as it happens, my mother ended up outranking my father.
How about that?
But the type of determination it took to be a black woman in the military then is much
challenging.
Much like the pioneering spirit you had to have to be here. Right. So, but as these things happen, you getting to graduation in 1960, you were already married. You were married, but back at school, living still in the school housing. Well, as it was, the housing near Houston Tillotson. And what was your commencement and graduation process like?
Graduation. We had a ceremony where there was a chain that the senior class presented to the junior class. There was this long chain, and we lined up side by side, and we lifted it and put it over on the junior's shoulders.
Like sort of passing.
It's in those notes that she has.
Passing the chain, passing the torch in a way.
Over to the other group to follow up. So that was that. And then graduation, we didn't wear cap and gowns. We just wore a nice dress. And I walked across the stage as my name was called. And
that was when your professor reached out and said,
we're proud of you.
So graduation was integrated.
Yes.
It was the integrated commencement. Did your family come up?
Yes, my parents came, and my husband came.
And your husband. And so by then, so now you have finished your degree, and tell us about you becoming a teacher. You mentioned that. And where did you teach, and what was that like? You mentioned that you're teaching philosophy about always be fair, which is a great philosophy.
Be prepared and be fair.
And what are some things that you found? You talked a little bit about teaching in integrated schools. So where did you end up teaching first, and what was it like?
I first taught in a brand new junior high school, Charles R. Drew Junior High School in the Aldine School District in Houston.
Right outside Houston, sure.
Taught 7th and 8th graders, all phases of home economics, although child development was my favorite.
And so Mr. McCoy was back in Houston then?
Yes.
So y'all were together now,
Right,
living as
right.
a traditional family, a
Right.
traditional couple.
Right. He was working for Allstate Insurance Company, and I was at Aldine Junior High. Oh, that's years ago. Wait, let me think.
But in the Aldine School District,
yes.
for sure.
I taught, no, first was the black school, Drew Junior High, 7th and 8th graders. And I taught all areas of home economics, child development, food and nutrition, clothing and textiles,
Wow.
home and family relationships, and home decorating. All areas, certain number of weeks in each area.
So did you have to go back to be certified to teach or pass certification? Did you tell me a little bit about how education, it seems to have been a big part of your life.
So I had to go through and take the education courses and do student teaching, and then had my permanent teaching certificate.
So did you do that in Houston, or
I did.
was that so you went to Houston, hit the ground running? It sounds
Right.
like, because to get certified and you have to be observed
Right.
as a student teacher or serve under a veteran teacher, an experienced teacher,
Right.
and then do that and then go to be certified.
And after everything, all the requirements were met, I now still have a permanent teaching certificate. And I taught at Drew Junior High over on Little York Road in Houston.
And so that would have been early.
Then,
this is when Aldine was in a building and growing phase,
of course.
for sure.
And when they integrated, they moved me to Aldine Senior High School, where I taught 11th and 12th graders. And I taught all child development classes, which was just down my line. I liked that.
Right.
I enjoyed
You
that.
said that was one of your areas that you that you really felt comfortable, that you
I
enjoyed.
enjoyed that. I really did.
As you think about looking back on attending UT Austin, you talked about it gave you experience in that integrated setting that would have been key to you succeeding once you had to teach in an integrated school. That, like we said, that could be a difficult transition.
Yes.
As you graduated, did you think about the students who attended after you? In your case, I know you're, of course, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Did you ever reach out, or did you stay in contact with younger students who are coming in, or students that were coming in through UT after you?
I don't know about coming in through UT.
Well,
I've kept in touch
with
students.
With students.
They call me now and tell me what they're doing and how they're doing, and appreciation for what they learned under my tutelage.
Under your tutelage, yes. So did that... I
don't know if I answered your question.
No, absolutely. I just wondered when you were able to, when did you remember first coming back to the UT campus, and what was that like?
Oh, we came back for Miss Marsh Duran's, for the dedication of the dormitory in her name.
And that would have been 2010, I believe.
All right. Then we came back in 2016.
For the Precursor, so that was the 60th?
The homecoming game and all the activities. The president presented personally a medallion for each of us to wear. And you need to step out. And that was very nice.
That was the university's first real commemoration of the precursors, as you guys were called.
Luncheons, banquets, and
it was the 60th anniversary of you. Of you starting in 1956.
Right.
which was the
Oh, is that
first.
what it was? Okay.
It was the first anniversary of those first black undergraduates
Yes.
to attend this brave initial
Yes.
cohort.
And we won the homecoming game
And you that in
against
an
UT El
upset.
Paso.
There you go.
And it was a homecoming gathering of students that we had not seen each other in a long time.
And the graduate chapter
Yes.
of Omega Psi Phi sponsored
Right.
the Black Homecoming sponsored that event.
That was
Shout
wonderful.
outs to the Brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity
Precursors.
Incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
So 2010 you sort of you came back for the Almitras Duran
Yes.
thing. So did you keep in touch with what was going on campus? How did you hear about these events? Were you in alumni groups or subscribed to alumni emails or
No, it wasn't
newsletters?
Email, word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Other students, other graduates, and probably some written communication. Somehow or another, I learned about it. Shh.
So you heard through word of mouth.
Mamie and I keep in touch with each other.
And
we
keep
share
in
information.
And so there were people who you attended with that you did interact with throughout, and with these shared experiences. Did you guys, prior to you even coming back, did you ever get together to kind of reminisce or talk about some of the things, or when you did come back? How some of the some things may have seemed the same, or how did things seem different?
It was by telephone
Tell us
mostly.
your thoughts.
I don't recall time on campus except in 2016 when we really had the luncheons and
right, because that was a full weekend, and you guys were the honorees.
Yes,
in other words,
yes, it was very, very good.
60th anniversary, and thank you for bringing some of those. We're going to try to include some of the incredible memorabilia that you brought
All right.
that tells the story.
Yeah.
What was one of the things that if family members or your son asked you, what would you say about your time at UT?
It was challenging. It was different from my growing up background. I really wasn't particular about my son attending UT.
I was going to ask.
I wanted him
that.
to have a well-rounded college experience.
So did he, because you guys were in Houston, so he grew up in Houston?
Right.
He attended Houston schools?
He did, public schools.
Houston public schools?
And then he attended Prairie View College and graduated.
The place that you didn't want to go. So he kind of completed the circle of your parents.
Right, he did.
And what a blessing.
Uh-huh.
What a blessing to have had 3 generations of your family to attend.
I think his daddy influenced him somewhat.
Oh, yeah, that would be Mr. Ed's father influenced? Okay.
No, he did.
Oh,
My son's father, Edward.
Oh, I see, your husband. Okay, I'm sorry. So he was probably the influence on him to go to Prairie View.
I think so.
But
he had been down on summer programs.
Sure.
And he received a scholarship. And I think he enjoyed the time there.
And what did he study at Prairie View?
In biology. Biology.
So that must have been a proud day for you to see your son graduate.
And Dr. Coleman, Dr. John B. Coleman,
yes,
who delivered David,
who
was a 7-month baby. He was there. He was on the Board of Regents. And he recognized David by name and by sight when he saw him. They shook hands and hugged.
John B. Coleman, certainly one of the most prominent black OBGYNs in Houston, and a huge influence.
To the choir.
Huge influence on the educational community.
Yes.
And even now, HCC has the John B. Coleman campus, which is their medical center campus is named for him.
Where is that?
It's in the middle of the Texas Medical Center.
Oh, good.
So Houston Community College has, and they have everything from nursing to health administration and all those things.
He was a
named
good
for
family
him.
friend. He was with us through a lot.
Yes, yes. He was my
Yeah.
family friend too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't know Dr. Coleman, you didn't know Houston.
You didn't know anybody.
You didn't know anyone if that
That's
name
right.
wasn't familiar
That's
to you.
right.
And he also owned some entertainment venues. And aside, there was a place called JB's Entertainment Center that was
Was that
named
over on
it.
Scott?
It was on
Scott.
Scott, yes. And so legendary black performers from B.B. King
Yes.
to, I mean, everyone who came through. So he
Soul.
certainly had a huge impact on the community.
Sure did.
So to have Dr. Coleman give you that,
I was so sad when David called and said,
that he had,
I don't know how to tell you this, he said. We were sick.
So, so David grows up in Houston, goes to Prairie View, and then he returns to Houston. And what is your son David?
He worked with the city health department 25 years.
Oh, City
And
of
he
Houston.
retired and came to Palestine and joined his father in the family mortuary business.
And please tell us about growing up. I heard a lot about the McCoy, mortuary in Palestine, and so tell us something about that business, and tell us how you got involved in your husband's family business.
Okay, his parents started the business when in 1936 or 37.
And like so many things, even funeral homes in a long time were segregated, particularly in Texas. So, in life, in school, and in death. So 37, when did Mr. McCoy come back to take over or work at the family business?
We moved back to Palestine in 1982. And he worked in with them and then finally was a general manager owner. His father had died, and then he and his mother worked together, and then she died.
Now, did he have to go to mortuary school or train his dad?
He did.
Wow.
He's licensed mortician.
To be a licensed mortician
And field director.
That is not. I've heard that is not an easy process to be licensed in Texas.
Are you studying to be a? What was it? Used to be a man. Anyway, I thought the subjects were so
embalming and all those things. It's you have to have
a lot of science courses.
Yes, I was going to say you have to certainly have a sense of science and chemistry.
Pass the state board.
And licensure. It is not an easy process from what I hear. So now you are a mortician's wife on top of everything else. Tell me a little bit about how you got involved then in the business. So this was after you retired from teaching?
Yes. My mother-in-law would have me type the death certificates. Back then, you typed them on the typewriter.
So this was his mother, your husband's mother. Sure, okay.
And so from there, one thing led to another.
That's an important job because they have to be typed and certified and sent.
Dressing and makeup and all that kind of thing.
Really?
And then
of the dressing and makeup of the bodies?
And after she phased out, I started funeral arrangements and under his guidance and so forth.
Well, that goes back to your home economics background as well then, because in your clothings and textiles and wow. So you got hands-on involvement in the business.
Right.
And
so we do that together, men and women, and go from there.
Wow.
Making arrangements.
How long did you guys do that?
You
still are. So it's still family owned.
Yes.
And now your son has joined the business?
He's joined the business.
And does he have children?
Yes. 2 daughters
and
a grandchild.
Oh my goodness. Where are they?
One daughter's in Houston, and the other one's in South Africa right now.
Oh wow.
With a school.
Like an exchange program?
Yes.
Oh, amazing. One of the questions I always ask, if I can, is with your life and the things that you did, what was a place far different from Austin that you visited, never thought you'd get to go, and what were your experiences there? And it could be someplace close. It doesn't have to be as distant as South Africa, but just something that was different.
In 2009, he took us on a European tour.
Oh, it's you, Mr. McCoy, and you guys.
He and I together went on a European tour.
Oh, wow.
9 countries in 2000. No, how many countries? In 2009. That's when it was. Germany, Italy, yeah, London, France,
Wow.
riding across the
Oh, so you took the trains and the
everything, and the different foods and meeting different people.
absolutely.
It was wonderful. I took lots of pictures. You know,
Oh.
I take pictures.
Oh,
I have
absolutely.
scrapbooks.
So we've seen you. You were able to see your life go from Palestine to Houston to Austin,
To Europe.
back to Houston, back to Palestine, and then in Europe. That's an amazing.
He always has great ideas, and I just
And you go
I
along
make
with
the
it.
pictures.
Well, you're certainly a dedicated spouse to be that you got involved in that particular family business. But amazing that your background and your training here
It all ties together.
it ties together. So, would when you do visit the campus, like you're here on back on the campus today, what are some of the things that you think about when you see the campus now in 2023?
Oh, I've been sitting there at the hotel. Yeah, in the hotel there at the
Yes,
front, and I see
just across from the campus,
students
across
going
Guadalupe.
by with backpacks,
Oh, yes, in
shoulder
packs and
bags,
groups.
shoulder bags. Where we just carried our books in our arm, and that's something. And I see scooters and bicycles, and tons of automobiles parked around. Everybody's got a car.
That is very different from
It's different.
traditional college life. In college life, you knew which friends had a car. It wasn't many of them,
Right? No.
and that was a good friend to have. But
Right. And our grandchildren want cars now, but they don't get them. You go to school.
you know the expectation. It was a different time. The expectation that a child just gets a car,
Right after
doesn't
high
work
school
or doesn't go to
graduation.
college is very different.
No.
My certainly my parents and my grandparents' time that wasn't that was
It's
a
not part
thing.
of it.
We move and we expand. Have you had the opportunity to talk to other? I'm on staff here at UT. Have you had an opportunity to talk to other people at people of color here at the campus and or to share with them or to hear about their experiences?
Who are
Or
on
would you like
campus
to?
now? I'm not. Who have I talked to who came to UT?
White and black.
Well, I would just say
Either.
anybody who's made an impact or of interest or what is it like?
Interest in UT.
It's now that we're on, some say technically the second or almost third generation of black staff
Yes.
and faculty
Oh,
members.
yes.
That's a very different thing.
No.
But I have to be honest, the UT's black enrollment has remained steady
Yes.
at 4 to 5% over these many years. So if you were talking to black faculty members or black staff members here, what would you like to tell them that about your experiences that could help them make experiences more worthwhile for those coming through?
Well, at the time that I was here, there were no black staff members I can recall. I met the coach, Coach Strong.
Oh,
Head
Charlie
coach.
Strong was the
I was
former
happy
coach.
to have no, and I met him when we came in 2016. And I thought, who would have thought a black head coach at the University of Texas?
I never thought that day would come,
And
listeners.
so I was proud of that.
Sure.
And other than that, I don't know any other blacks who have or who are, except I just met you, who are
That was
doing
my-
anything at the University of Texas.
My honor. Are there anything else? Is there anything about your experience or any stories you want to share? Any things that you remember that stick with you or that made an impact? Certainly that lab partner, that made an impact on me to think about working week after week in a lab, sharing a lab tray with someone who doesn't.
Now, in home economics, there was another black girl. She lived in Austin, and she and I were in the clothing class together, and so we were automatically paired as
Sure,
partners.
of course.
So we had to take measurements and that sort of thing. So she and I measured each other. I see some feet. So she and I took each other's measurements.
Mhm.
That worked out
Mm.
comfortably. That was good. Nobody had to worry about. And we made our garments
Wow.
and had our fashion show and did well with that. Other than that, the classes were so large,
Mhm.
and you didn't really get to get close with students who weren't living in the co-op with you.
Right. If
But
they
maybe they were natives of Boston,
sure.
and we'd get acquainted and know each other's name. And I ran into a couple when we came back in 2016 for that reunion, and
And I know you mentioned living certainly right near an old dorm at Houston Tillotson, kind of fashioned into a co-op. Would you have said that your experience at UT would have been vastly different had Houston Tillotson not been, well, down the road? You walked it. So, I mean, can you imagine or can you reflect on what would have been to live in Austin, try to attend UT if there hadn't been Houston Tillotson there as a background for you, as a backdrop?
well, see, when UT was open for Black students, that was it. There was no preparation made for living arrangements. We lived in that old vacant Houston Tillotson dorm, 28 girls, and a house mother and a lady who prepared meals. We didn't have transportation or anything. We walked.
So there was no shuttles.
We walked all the way over to the campus.
And and if I want to make sure I understood, during your day, in between your classes, there was no place for you to eat. You did not have lunch on campus. You ate when you got back home.
Right. We'd be in the student union building, and all the Black students would be. There was a section there. We'd meet and chat and rest and wait for the next class. But nobody came to speak or
Right.
welcome. We weren't looking to make friends, but at least be cordial.
To be acknowledged.
And passing down the sidewalk, going from one building to another. All these buildings I see here now, they weren't there then.
Yes.
But going down from one building to another, they'd look away. And I said I had a letter from a student in my class who said, I wish I had spoken to you. I said, I wish you had too.
And she wrote that about what year? Would you say after?
She wrote it, just 2-3 years ago.
So since the precursors have become a thing.
Yes. But all of my teachers in the home economics department were super nice. They were excellent. They recognized my skills and talents that I had. And they graded the work that I did in class. They had suggestions and all. And they taught me along with the rest of the class. But I went for a conference once with an economics professor because we had a textbook.
Oh,
He
when
lectured.
you went to that school, when you went to, I'm sorry, I guess that was like a professor.
Yeah. in
And
economics.
that didn't go well. So do you remember trying to visit a lot of professors or going to conference office hours after that? That would have been kind of discouraging.
I think I visited a math teacher when it was a woman math teacher.
Oh, wow.
And I got the feeling that she felt like she needed to prove herself as a competent teacher because she was a woman. I don't know what it was like for men professors and women professors, but I got the idea that she felt like as a woman she had to prove herself as competent also, as much as men were. And so you could never ask a question. She
So
wouldn't answer.
she may have overcompensated, as sometimes people do.
Right. So I when making my schedules, I avoided women teachers.
That is, it adds a whole nother layer of that. You mentioned Miss Ewing. Are there any other of the students that you attended with that you still talk to or meet with or socialize with now or speak with on occasion?
Oh, let's see.
Any of the other precursors?
Oh, now You know, my memory's not that good.
No, I mean but there are a couple that you do.
Mamie Ewing,
Maybe.
Barbara. Can't think of her last name. And
I interviewed
Jerry
some-
Ann Cannon.
Okay, the
She's
Cannons.
from Houston.
I interviewed the Hawkins. I don't know if you.
No.
There was
And we didn't keep up with each other
Mhm.
afterwards. Some stayed and graduated, some did not.
Sure.
And but Mamie and I have been close for a long time.
If I understand this correctly, when you describe your experience here, you summed it up with the word challenging.
It was. Academically.
Academically
Because of the
challenging.
small school I came from.
And logistically challenging because you
Yes.
weren't on campus.
Yes. And the limited academic, courses that we had offered in my small school. Stress was the basic fundamentals, reading, writing, and arithmetic.
So the foundations.
Reading and comprehension, that got me through a lot of things by being able to read and comprehend. That was at Texas Southern, and that was certainly at UT. At UT also.
So it's an amazing story from Palestine to you ending
Little
up
bitty
being
town,
in
12 in my class, 100 in the whole school.
100 in the whole school and ending up at the largest
No
and
science classes
flagship
taught.
university of the
Right.
state.
Yes.
And in the very first class.
Yeah.
It truly makes you a pioneer. It truly makes you a precursor.
Yeah.
And Mrs. McCoy, we're so pleased that you took the time to talk to us today.
My mother would be happy to hear this. They are both gone now. But she thought I could get a good education at the University of Texas. And she said, they're opening up now to black students, and that's where you're going next year. So
And
that's where I came.
If it weren't for parents that wanted more for their children, especially, where would we be?
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. Thank you so much, Mrs.
You're so
McCoy.
welcome. Thank you
Thank you.
for asking me. Appreciate you.
We're honored.